VocalEye Almost Live Zoom, Whereverever, hosted by Amy Amantea, with special guests Alysha Mardon, Erika Mitsuhashi, and Alysha Seriani.
A big welcome to you all to tonight's VocalEye Almost Live event. My name is Amy Amantea. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Associate Director here at VocalEye. I'm your host for these Almost Live events, and I'm a proud member of this community, the blind community, which has made a soft space in my heart, has been a home for me to land in, and I've made a lot of great friends here, and I had a lot of great experiences here. So thank you all for being so welcoming of newcomers into the space. And a big thank you to you all for supporting VocalEye, for making donations and contributions financially, for writing such lovely testimonials and sharing how this platform has introduced you to art that you hadn't experienced before, had changed the way you thought about art, has been making an impact on your life. So thank you so much for sharing those testimonials. Keep them coming. We read them, we respond to them, we appreciate them. Our funders read them, and so it really does a lot in helping support VocalEye and the work that we do. And if you happen to be watching this particular episode on our YouTube channel eventually, please do us a favor and hover over to those like and subscribe buttons and just click on okay, like, subscribe, support us, all those things, and subscribe to our newsletter. That'll greatly help us out. VocalEye broadcasting to you all from our home base, which is the traditional territories and the stolen lands of the Coast Salish peoples, in particular the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. And tonight, as we explore some dance and some movement piece, what it means to be connected to home, I wanted to learn more about the importance of dance in Indigenous cultures. And we're going to be exploring a little bit more about dance and movement throughout November. And so I will continue sort of this theme. But in many Indigenous cultures, not in all, but in many Indigenous cultures, dance is a way of expression. It's a language of itself, perhaps. And dance promotes community. It promotes interaction within communities. It can be part of meditation. Dance celebrates events such as harvests or seasonal changes, marriages, and gatherings, and it celebrates the representatives from other nations. So when nations would get together, it would be part of ceremony and celebrating other folks that would come into from one nation to another, and to celebrate the arrivals of new peoples. Dance has been one of the cultural elements that was extinguished through the residential school system of indigenous peoples, especially across so-called Canada. And we've learned a lot about that in the province of British Columbia and other provinces across Canada in the last handful of years. And so it's not lost on me that this practice of residential schools has been an erasure of dance practices and Indigenous cultures. And so I know that there are Indigenous peoples and some peoples that I'm close to in Indigenous communities that are looking to reclaim what dance means to them, what dance means to their peoples, what dance means to their community, that they're reviving this, that they're rediscovering the deep roots to dance and what it means in their traditions. So we're going to explore a little bit more about what dance means in Indigenous cultures in the weeks to come. So that's what I'm here to offer this evening as we explore a little bit of dance and movement together this evening. So welcome, it's Wednesday, November the 15th, 2023, and tonight we're proud to offer you our almost live event number 135. 135, yes, I said it. And tonight we have some friends in the space from the Whereverever project. So let's just welcome them in. So I've got Alysha, and I've got Alysha, and I've got Erika, and they're gonna turn their cameras on and join me in the square, so it's just not my face here, because I don't just like it when it's my face up there. But how are you, friends?
Hi, Amy. Alysha here. I'm doing well. I'm excited.
I'm glad that you're excited. Thank you so much for joining us. So let's do like a little introduction of the three of you. You're all joining from one square. So folks are like, I only noticed 2 squares in the space. There are 3 folks in one square, and I have my own square. I feel all alone on my own square, but maybe each of you can introduce yourself to our lovely Almost Live group. Who wants to go first?
I will. My name is Alexa. I'm a white non-binary person with short bleached blonde hair, and I'm wearing a gray mask and a blue sweatshirt with a shiny silver necklace over top. I'm a dancer and a choreographer, and a fan of Erika and Alysha, who are my most frequent collaborators and also my dear friends. And I'm in Erika's kitchen with Erika and Alysha at the moment.
Nice. You don't have a microwave that has stuff peeling off it, does it, do you? Did you hear Sue talk about her microwave that has stuff peeling off the inside?
No, we missed that.
All right. Caution to the world. No microwaves with stuff peeling off. Go ahead, Erika.
Yeah, no problem. Hi, I'm Erika. I am a mixed race, half Japanese and half many other things. Cis female presenting person. I have dark, short hair, and I'm wearing a light gray sweater and black turtleneck this evening. I'm a dancer and choreographer also. I feel like my practice is kind of disciplinary nomadic in the recent years due to COVID and also curiosities. And yeah, we're in my apartment in the corner with a white wall behind us. And yeah, these are my chosen family and dear collaborators.
And I am Alysha. I am a white lesbian person with a mullet, big surprise, and a Kelly green turtleneck on, and am a media artist who gets to make moving images with some people who aren't always filmmakers. So we got to make a film together. I did the camera work and video editing and those types of things, but the process of this project coming together, I really got to witness these two make this amazing work, sometimes with cameras and sometimes just with my body. So firsthand account coming from me on the whole process.
So we've got movers, dancers, filmmakers. How did you all come to meet each other with such different mediums? They feel like such different mediums, but how did you find yourself in the same spaces with each other?
Well, I'll say I was invited to be a video documenter for a live performance that these two made. You should talk about the amazing work that it was.
Yeah, we presented a full-length work at Vivo Media Arts Center in 2019, and through Vivo we were connected with Alysha, and I feel like through that process and then in conversations after, we were like, we're all into the same things. Let's work on something from the beginning together. And since then we've done a couple smaller projects, and then this was our largest, most ambitious project that took us to Japan and Finland. And yeah, we've been in kind of regular collaboration since 2019, just before COVID started.
Yeah, that's a long time for a project. I think that there's a misconception amongst non-artist folk that it doesn't take 2 or 3 years to put something together. So can you talk just a little bit about the process? Just tease us a little bit, because this starts with an idea, right? And then you write a grant, and then where did the concept start for something like this? Who wants to take that one? Alexa, you want to take that one? Alexa
Sure,
wants to take
yeah.
that one.
Yeah, so Erika and I have been dancing together and making dances together since 2016. And I think even before COVID, so it would have been 2019, we had this idea that we wanted to play with a different medium and work with film and with making something on a screen. And so we wrote a grant which built in something that we really, really wanted to do, which was to meet each other's families. My family in Finland on my mom's side and Erika's family in Japan on her dad's side. And so we started growing this idea of what if we could travel to these places and start to understand how each other's bodies came to be living on these lands, and how knowing each other in that way might deepen our relationship, and also for us to play with the magic of the screen. So to be able to play with time and place in a slightly more fantastical way than we might be able to with a live performance. And at that time, we didn't know who we were going to collaborate with for the film portion. And then, as Erika said, we met Alysha. The pandemic hit, we had received the grant, but we didn't know what the next steps were. And then over the course of between 2020 and 2022, part of the fact is that we simply weren't able to travel to do the filming on location in Finland and Japan. And so that made space for us to do a bunch of other smaller projects together, including filming processes, editing processes. Lots of them were kind of the result of pandemic oriented. A lot of artists received support to orient their work towards a screen. So we thought, hey, why not make these kind of smaller, sillier processes, and along the way we learned how to approach using a camera with movement, how to work together, how to cook meals with each other, how to hang out, how to become friends with each other's friends. And then our triangle, as we call it, has been sort of took shape. So in a sense, it was a lot of delays due to COVID and then other personal life things that came up, but it made this kind of special circumstance in which we were able to really develop our relationships to each other before jumping into this quite risky and intimate experience of traveling and meeting each other's families, in some cases staying with family members, encountering complexities, misunderstandings, mistranslations. And so I think in a bit of a way, it was a blessing that the project didn't happen until now, because I think what we made, we wouldn't have been ready to make in 2021. But the growth that we did in those years, for better or worse, made us able to create this work that we feel really proud of and excited about.
So all three of you got the opportunity to travel to both Finland and Japan. Am I following that correctly? Because Alysha,
Yes.
you're following with the cameras and
That's right.
Okay. Obviously we're going to talk about what that was like, but we're going to do that after we experience the film itself, because I don't want to spoil anything. How would you like to set up the documentary film? Because we've got two pieces of work tonight, which is a documentary film about your journeys, and then like a complementary dance piece. So these two pieces are kind of like tandem with each other, but they're also kind of standalone. So how do you want to set these up so that the audience has kind of an expectation of how to receive these things? Anybody want to take that one?
Well, maybe I'll talk about, so the two works, Erika speaking, the two works were always intended to be presented in one evening. So in May, we presented this work at the Western Front, where everyone who attended sat and witnessed and watched the film first. There was a choreographed transition in the space where chairs were moved and the space was kind of cleared, and then the dance kind of unfolds out of that moment. So maybe as we're listening and watching and feeling into the film, just knowing that, it does kind of like set us up. It like time travels, it travels in space to different moments of these recordings, and then it kind of spits us out into wherever the present is, I guess. And I'm just coming up with using our title in that way. So
I like it.
forgive me for the.
Where did the title come from? Because it wasn't the original title. I remember you all with the
No.
original title, then you're like, actually, we're pivoting because. So tell that story. Somebody tell that story.
We were in Japan. We had wrapped a bunch of filming and capturing and had many different flavors of what traveling presented. And we were kind of enjoying a moment off, just the three of us. And we were sitting in a bar, tiny, tiny bar. And there was wherever ever written on a poster. Like literally we're talking about something, then we look over and it's like right there, and it just kind of stuck out to us, and it encapsulated this feeling of like in time being wherever, or being anywhere, or being everywhere all at once, which is the original title.
Yeah.
Which
sounds a lot like the movie.
Which sounds a lot like the movie. And when we heard about the movie, we were like, oh, okay, that sounds awesome. And then it started winning awards, and then we're like, that's not leaving our cultural moment for a while. Yeah. So this kind of still encapsulates that feeling of like I guess potential, and also magic of time travel and being in any place, and it feeling both familiar and unfamiliar, and like just something that encapsulates like multiplicity, I think, is the feeling. But yeah, it was just this serendipitous moment of us like sitting like this and kind of shooting the shit a little bit.
For what it's worth, I think it's a much better title. It's pretty clever and interesting and unique. So I think your pivot was a great instinct. So I'm really excited to share this roughly 16-minute documentary film with our group, and then we'll come back and have a little chit chat about process and what it was like for you both on this journey. Well, all three of you, but meeting families that you're related to, and maybe for you, Alysha, being involved in witnessing people meeting families that they're related to, and what that was all like for you all. So any final ways in which you want to set this up?
Maybe I'll jump in to say, this is Alysha speaking. This film is experimental in nature, and I think an invitation to the audience is orienting to a time and a listening of poetry rather than narrative. So we're experimenting with cuts in time, working with poetry in many ways. I think one poetic factor we have, which will be explained in the preamble by our phenomenal audio describer, Andrea Cowden, is that we use some unconventional camera tools to record the film, and also some unconventional approaches to music and sort of the accompanying soundtrack, which was composed by Sasha J. Langford. One of the textures of the soundscape that happens has a sort of glitchy sound to it. So I want to put everyone at ease that your computer is not malfunctioning, your speakers have not blown out. This is a textural experimentation that we're working with glitch, and maybe we'll talk more about how that factors into the film and its intentions. But know that any glitchy sounds are likely very much intentional, and that in a live environment, we might not explain that beforehand, but in an online context, I just want to give everyone permission to accept glitchy, unfamiliar sounds.
Right. So no, you don't have to restart your computers or refresh your screens, adjust your volumes. It is intentional. Awesome. All right, friends. Well, if you're ready, I'm ready to just sit back and hit play. Are we ready to do this?
Yeah. Great.
All right, friends. Let's hit play on this documentary film, and we'll come back and have a chat with the artists afterwards. All right, Rick, when you're ready, hit play, please.
Due to copyright restrictions, excerpts of this presentation have not been recorded. Please check below for more information, including links to the material if it is hosted elsewhere.
Very nice, friends. Very nice. So, okay, you traveled to Finland, you traveled to Japan. Had you ever been there before? Had you met family from Finland or Japan before, Erika?
Yeah, I've traveled to Japan a few times.
Okay.
A handful of times as an adult and a little bit as a young person. Um, all of the family members I'm in communication with and see every time I go there. And then the person who was teaching me Koto was a serendipitous meeting of this person on Naoshima Island, who we were walking down the street and we kind of met and started chatting about the fish in his pond in front of his house, and it was just a very lovely moment where he invited us into the space that he it's a spiritual it's not full on a temple, but it's like a spiritual gathering place that he's the leader of that faction, and he's the only person in the Japanese the footage from Japan who's not a blood relative of mine.
Okay. And is it the same for you, Alexa? Had you been to Finland?
Yeah,
Family?
I had been a few times as well, and we actually, both of us interviewed many other family members or featured them that didn't make it into the film. So as described, Erika's grandfather and aunt were the main voices heard in that in the video, and same with me, was a cousin and a second cousin of mine, and the Karelian elder who was sharing the lament singing practice is also not a blood relative of mine, but has been a friend and a mentor online since COVID, and that was only the second time that I had met her in person. So we were able to share space with her as well, which was really special.
Alysha, was this the first time for you in either of these countries?
It was my first time in Finland, and I had traveled once to Japan in 2017, but the experience of being hosted and really feeling immersed in both the places, it's such a gift. And I mean, there's so many beautiful resonant experiences in both places. I mean, in Finland we spent a lot of time at the sauna, and in Japan in bathhouses, and eating lots of delicious food. And I feel really grateful to have been hosted so graciously by the family and other relatives there, and just to be able to really be with the land and listen to it together. It was really such a gift to be able to travel to unfamiliar places in that way.
So set up a bit of the context in terms of the travel. Did you go back to back travel? Did you take 2 weeks and go to both places? How much time did you spend in each place? Just so we have a little bit of context of what that was like.
Yeah, that was the intention, actually, was to go back to back. But the COVID restrictions for travel were remained very strict for Japan up until early 2022. So we traveled oh my God, what year is early 2023? Oh my God, this year. I feel like since COVID, time is just melting, and I can't actually.
It all blends together. So you were there earlier this year.
That's right.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, I can't believe it. So in fall 2022, we traveled to Finland, and we were there for about 2 weeks. And then we came home and started a slow process of editing some of the footage from Finland. But of course, the film couldn't really come together until we saw how the two locations spoke to each other. Yeah. So we traveled to Japan in March 2023 with and recorded the footage there. And then between April and mid-May, we both edited the film and completed the live performance. Almost lost our minds, but we made it through.
A lot.
And the editing process and the choreography were really in dialogue with each other through all of the practices that we had put in place over the last few years.
Okay, so you set up some context. I guess I'm wondering, what were you looking for? So again, and I have a question for you too, Alysha, after this, but for Alexa and Erika, what were you looking for when you embarked on this journey, and what did you find? Erika, why don't you start with that one?
I think when we started out, it really was, I think maybe we started with an intention of making kind of more of a documentary for the film component, and that it felt important or like resonant for each of us that when we visited these places where ostensibly half of our families are each from, that there was this feeling of like connection and curiosity about what it means to like put our bodies in those places.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the biggest like thing for me in the filming process kind of was a gift from Alysha, and was like a nice reminder along the way that we're going to these places with the intention to do recording, but we have a recording device that's just as valuable, which is our bodies and then our collective body in witnessing one another in these places. And that still feels resonant and feels like something I'll carry forward in other processes, that like the documentation or the capturing or the filming or the different ways of using language to describe this moment of recording is like just one part of it, but the embodied research we did was so big and so much a part of the like underside of the big iceberg of the project.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I feel like I learned a lot about process and being in right relation with land and with collaborators was like the big things for me in it.
How about for you, Alexa?
Yeah, I think when we started, the question certainly shifted for me over the few years. And I think one thing that felt similarly complex and kind of hard in both places was that I think part of this project was a seeking out of relationship to cultural practices, folk practices, and maybe even conversations about what it means to be in relationship to life, what it means to be in relationship to death, what it means to be in relationship to land. And that many of our blood family members, through whether it's through histories of trauma or war or westernization, it was quite difficult to access that level of conversation around things that felt like matters that felt a bit closer to the heart in both cases with our family members. And so some of the places we found those access to those things were in these kind of synchronistic, for example, the person that Erika mentioned, who we didn't actually know, but just opened his door to us. We also got put in touch in a very synchronistic way with the dance class in Japan. Similarly, the dance class in Finland came from a moment of spontaneity of my cousin saying, let's go knock on my neighbor's door. She's a folk dance teacher. Maybe you should take her class tonight. And we were like, what? Okay, yeah, let's do that. So then we went downstairs and my cousin was so nervous, but we knocked on the neighbor's door and she said, yeah, I teach this folk dance. It's like in a community center in this tiny town. And just the fact that it happened to be on the one day we were there in that town. And so it felt like, even though there was lots of difficulty and like a lack of information, and in some cases a lot of pain that we were encountering, felt like the universe was also just giving us these little gifts. And in that sense, I think it really, it affirmed our desire to go there. I guess to tie it sort of more big picture, part of our questions that we're holding together is, as settlers living on this land, who don't have direct relationships to growing up in cultures and practices, as artists, we're trying to learn as much as we can about where we've come from. And also at a certain point, there are gaps. And so how is our artistic practice a part of filling in those gaps and making ritual and making practices together and using our imaginations and our bodies to be able to process potentially generational things that were not able to be held in culture to process those things. So this project felt like a big start of that, of lifelong practice.
There's a lot to marinate. Alexa, thank you for sharing all of that. There's some kind of question rolling around in my head, and I don't know how to articulate it, but it relates something to what Erika said at the top before we even hit play, which is about the three of you being chosen family. And about the two of you experiencing blood family. And I don't even know how to articulate this, but somehow I feel like I want to draw a relationship between the two experiences, and not that one's better or one's worse. That's not what I'm trying to say, but that I think sometimes we undervalue chosen family in some ways. Like, we don't give it enough credit because we think blood is like the be all and end all, and maybe it's not. Do you know what I mean? Like, we choose people that are a part of our family for a reason, because we have like minds and like experiences and like values, and sometimes we don't find that in people that share our DNA, and we're like, why? How are we so different? This is how we feel sometimes with my family. How are we so different?
I also just
Alysha.
I think that it's Alysha here, the bravery, I think, also for Eric and Alexa. We are friends. We describe each other as chosen family all the time, but I think it does take bravery and access to be able to share, to open the doors of your bio family with your chosen family. And I think each of us in those, or like seeing you in the moments of being with family where sometimes there's language barriers, sometimes there's just unnecessary confusion that I think each of us held a ballast of what we care about and how we want to grow old together, and what this experience means for what they're carrying back to the place that we live and do art together. But it was very brave. I think I can't imagine inviting, cool art friends to visit my hometown. It's a bit spooky. So
Where's your hometown, Alysha?
I grew up in the Rocky Mountains on Ktunaxa territory in Cranbrook, BC. So
It could be a whole planet all on its own in Cranbrook. So as the filmmaker who's documenting all of these experiences, I mean, you just opened up and shared a little bit about what that was like, but also just from like a process perspective, you are shooting hundreds of hours of film, I imagine. And then you have to choose what boiled down to like 16 minutes of content. So how do the three of you, I assume it's the three of you, decide what gets chosen? What makes the cut? Literally, what makes the cut?
Well, I'll say first that we didn't really have hundreds of hours, but I mean, we do have hundreds of hours in, as this metaphor works, treating our bodies as recording devices. Okay. So, what are the practices we can do to really feel into an experience so that you remember it. What are the ways that that happens? Sometimes there's just an unforgettable moment that you're always going to tell everyone you know about. And this, I think, was always going to be one. But I think there's also strategies, and part of being a filmmaker, like my creative brain has flourished learning from people whose medium is creating from the body. And I think sometimes with filmmaking, you know, even in the language, there's this orientation towards capture and extraction and shooting and all these things that are terrible to think of when it's related to your body. And so my process with cameras is to treat it like an extension of my sensing body, so that it's coming through that into me. And if I'm numb or trying to selfishly pull in the most beautiful or most important thing, that I might not be present to the moment. And that we worked together on the creation of the film by using language of choreography, like a score. So we had sort of prompts that guided when we would press record on the cameras. So the 3D camera that Andrea describes was sort of a we kind of treated it as a way for when is the land or the place or the moment calling to us and asking us to see it. And then we used the more conventional camera for the things that we wanted to construct together. And I think the moments that we constructed are very particular. So there's the scenes of people dancing in a particular important place. There's interviews with family members. And then everything else is this sort of, you know, divination of when does the moment call to us, rather than us anticipating what we want and going to extract it. So that was part of our approach in the filmmaking. And then with editing, there were many versions of the film. There was like a 35-minute version, and it just, you know, trying to find the essence of this process, it's a challenge. And I think there's many films that might exist from what we recorded, but that this is what appeared in that 4-week editing period together with Sasha's music. And yeah, I can just tell a quick anecdote. And also Sasha, the composer who also plays the live music for the dance, in the sort of second half of the editing process with Alysha, Sasha worked with Alysha to essentially like compose layers of music that fit with the images. And so it was a really collaborative process between the two of them. And blessed Alysha was in the editing room, literally one door away from us, Erika and I, who were in the dance studio. And it was 3 or 4 days away from when we had to have essentially a rough cut of the film ready to go to deliver to all the other folks who were helping us collaborate. And Alysha was like in this place where you've looked at something so many times you can't tell what it is anymore. And she said, "Oh, I made something, it's terrible. I don't think you can even."
I think he said something like, "I think I'm driving
Hitchhiking.
I'm hitchhiking in the wrong direction."
Hitchhiking in the wrong direction.
And we were like, "Oh, that's okay, that's part of the process." And then she was almost about to not show it to us, and we thought, no, like it's only going to take 15 minutes. Let's just see this wrong direction. Why not? Like, give it a chance. We'll learn from it no matter what. She played it for us, and all three, me, Sasha, and Erika, were bawling our eyes out by the end. And we were like, "Alysha, I think you just made the film." And so this thing of like, really being in the mud together. And of course it, the finessing happened after that, but we also were able to trust Alysha's to run with the scores that we had created for editing. And thank God we did.
I mean, we could talk for hours just about this 16-minute film, because there's so much richness in this, even from like, I'm curious about the cultural relationship of the Japanese Bon dance and the Finnish dances, and like, how are those culturally significant? I mean, not like how, but like, what are the cultural significances to those dances that you experienced? And what did you feel like when you experienced those? Did you feel some kind of connection? Did you feel a sense of community? I don't I don't know. Erika, what do you I think you all are nodding. I'm guessing. I'm sensing that there's some movement.
Yep. Erika here, that's definitely a nod. With the Japanese Bon dance, it's a dance that's done in like by lots of different people all over Japan at different times of the year, generally based around the seasons or like specific holidays. And with what we learned from the lovely people who taught us was that those dances were a way to like call back the ancestors. And it was like just this little nugget of wisdom that was given to us about it. And I don't know, it kind of like clarified something for me, because I had learned those as a kid and I had learned them in like very like brief, like it's just for everyone. It's I don't know, I don't have the exact words for it, but like it felt like performing or like embodying something that is meant for anyone to do. And that felt really like beautiful, because my relationship to dance has been somewhat ableist, I guess, in a way. I have a able body. I trained in a specific like contemporary like Western technique for most of my young training and even into my like university training. And it was such a like beautiful way to engage with like a specifically cultural thing that is meant for everyone. And we have like some dance elders that have reminded us that like dancing and singing is a birthright, and that comes to mind a lot when I think about what it felt like to do those dances. And the women that come together and like learn these dances, like practice them and like have a very specific relationship to those dances. And then it was very sweet, as professional dancers, we just entered this space, and it also felt like a bit of a very bizarre homecoming to just enter a dance space there that we just were like, yeah, this is a move that we do, and we can do them all. And I don't know, I felt like we were among like new friends in a way too, which also felt very sweet. And there was a big language barrier in that class, and we had a translator, so that also like fed into this like very rich, like sweet experience in Japan. And then in Finland
yeah, we were very much like guests that were like amusedly tolerated in the class. I think culturally also, Finnish people are less effusive in their welcoming, but we were certainly welcomed, and the teacher was also teaching in Finnish, which I don't speak. So my second cousin was offering translation, but it became very clear that was slowing down the business of these community dancers just wanting to get on with their dancing. So we just sort of, I said at a certain point, like, don't worry about translating. We can pick it up, like we're dancers. So we did the whole class just by rhythm and watching and following the community dancers. And I have a sheet, like a printout. I know that we learn dances from the east of Finland to the west, and that there's different physicalities that relate to like different ways of using your weight, which was very clear in the class. But unfortunately, because of the translation, I don't have very much information about each specific dance. But one day I would like to have more knowledge around that.
So maybe this is a ... right? Like the journey continues, which many art projects start that way. But the journey continues into this dance piece. So how do we link this film to the dance piece, which we're just about to experience?
Yeah. we've been thinking about, Alexa here, we've been thinking about the, in a sense, the dance being kind of bringing into the space all of these questions of how did you get here? How did I get here? Practice of putting our bodies in these places, in these lands, seeing what we receive, and then the dance being a kind of almost like a ritual of moving these experiences through our bodies. So some of the dancing that appears through our improvisation practice includes movements from the dance class in Japan, the dance class in Finland, as well as our many years of improvising together. But in the live performance, Erika and I do, which will, maybe I shouldn't give it away too much, but there is a transition which is described in the film, where Erika and I come into the space where the film has just performed, and we change the space over, including closing the curtains over the screen where the audience just watched the film. And so this transition from one time to the present time is also is also a part of it. And Sasha's music, which was present in the film, Sasha continues to perform live with us in the dance performance.
Yeah, and Erika here, and through the choreographed transition. So there's kind of this sonic through line thread through the film, through the transition, and then into the dance that follows.
So if we were audience members in a space together, we would have witnessed the film together, had this transition, and then into the dance, and Sasha playing the soundscape live and perform the dance into the piece. So that's kind of that's kind of the setup if you were sort of live in person together.
Yeah,
that transition.
That's right.
Okay, cool. Because I experienced this. I experienced the dance piece in kind of a dress rehearsal, I suppose, format when the documentary film piece wasn't quite ready yet. So I didn't get to experience the transition stuff yet, but we can talk about that afterwards. And then I think just a reminder again about the intention of the audio going into this piece with that kind of glitchy effect, what I think is really evocative. I'm really digging that glitchy effect. And I did dig it when we were in person in the space. I thought it was really evocative. Any other things that either of you want to say before we start to set up the dance? Nobody?
So.
Nobody? We're ready to
Just
hit
a big
play?
shout out to Andrea Counden for the description. So anyone who's familiar with Andrea, it will be a familiar voice to the film that we just heard.
Awesome. All right. Well, I say we sit back and we enjoy the dance piece of Wherever Ever. We ready for this?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, friends, it's about 40 minutes long. Rick, when you're ready, please hit play.
The dance that follows is 40 minutes long. It's performed by Alexa and Erika at Western Front, an old artist-run center in the Mount Pleasant neighborhood of Vancouver, on the unceded lands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, where the artists live as settlers. The music for the dance is performed live by Sasha J. Langford, and the lighting design was made by Niansu Wang. The dance was recorded by a single camera operator with a Steadicam who moves freely around the room. My description is based on this recording, but also draws on my experience of watching this dance live and on my friendship and conversations with Erika and Alexa. It'll start in just a few moments. Enjoy. An empty room, dimly lit. The eyes of the camera scan its perimeter, lined with a row of empty wooden chairs. Blue halogen tube lights make the white walls glow. At the near end of the room, the two fabric spirits hang. Each is suspended at chest level and hovers above a wooden podium. At the far side of the room is the blank projection screen where the movie would have just played. Black curtains hang on either side. Shiny black flooring covers half the room. A door cracks open beside the screen. Alexa and Erika enter, slowly walking backwards. They're dressed in loose, flowing outfits, matching pants, shirts, and jackets made by their close friend, Jae-woo Kang. Alexa's is mostly red with blue paneled accents, and Erika's is the opposite, blue with red. Still walking backwards, they draw the heavy curtains closed one by one, covering up the projection screen. Walking backwards along the perimeter of the room, they carefully collect the halogen tubes, each glowing light the length of 2 outstretched arms. Alexa and Erika both pluck 2 lights from each wall. They carry the glowing lights to the far end of the room and place them in an evenly spaced line along the ground at the foot of the curtain. Still walking backwards, the dancers continue to slowly change the room. They work together to carry one of the wooden podiums swiftly to the near wall, tucking it in next to where their friend Sasha J. Langford sits at a table of electronics, creating the live sound score. Calm, serious expressions on their faces, Erika and Alexa move as one to transport the second podium out of the way to the edge of the room. Still walking backwards, with an air of unhurried ritual, they cross the space. Their bare feet meet the ground gently. Their eyes are wide open, taking in the whole quiet, empty room. When they arrive at the far side, they crouch at the foot of the curtain. Both dancers grab the edge of the shiny black flooring and then, moving swiftly as one, run backwards into the room, unfolding the flooring as they go and revealing its bright white interior. With a whip that sends a ripple billowing from edge to edge, the dance floor settles like a giant, heavy, plasticky carpet across the length of the whole room. The fabric spirits sway in response. Still traveling backwards, the dancers move the 2 other tubes of halogen lights, taking them from the walls and lining them up on the edge of the floor in front of where Sasha works, directly across from the others. Finally, each dancer slinks into a corner of the room. Pulling smoothly on an unseen cord attached to an unseen pulley, Erika and Alexa raise the fabric spirits. The delicate forms, one blue, one red, float upwards towards the ceiling where they remain, suspended. After all this preparation, they start dancing before we are ready, slipping into dance the way a seal slips into water. The carefully prepared space is punctured by a new kind of presence, dancing bodies that are smooth, supple, and soft. The light in the room shifts to a deep, saturated blue. Alexa is low, supported sideways by one hand and one knee. A rolling wave swells from the base of their spine all the way to the top of their head. Erika spirals upwards, arms leading the way, her elastic body momentarily stretched taut. Alexa and Erika are improvising, and they will continue to improvise for a long time, each traveling in their own stream of shape, rhythm, direction, and tone. The dancers move in a way that is both disrupted and ever-flowing, Erika's fist lifts off the ground, her forearm wraps across her belly. Alexa's jaw falls open noiselessly. The back of their hand flashes forward, then retracts. Erika and Alexa call this way of improvising blurring. Just as one movement emerges, another movement forms and takes its place, over and over and over again. The result is something that is, in some ways, challenging to watch, focus on, and understand. It is intentionally disorienting, more than we can take in. Nevertheless, the mood remains calm and focused. Alexa's dance shifts time as their chest slowly opens upwards. Their head tips back as their whole body seems to melt away from the suspended point of their right shoulder. Time shifts again and they fold into a crisp crouch. Behind them, Erika's hand suddenly whips up over her head, the movement echoed by her loose blue jacket, which flings open, then falls shut. The sense of disorientation is amplified by the fact that there are two dancers, and they aren't always dancing next to each other. As a viewer, my attention jumps back from one to the other, never knowing quite where to look. Often, I lose track of one dancer, only to rediscover them later, inhabiting a whole new place and experience. Erika, on all fours, watches her hand as it hovers over the floor, reaching softly forwards, then retracting softly back. Alexa's hand gestures in front of their belly like they're trying to explain something, but the hand darts away before they're able to complete the thought. A swooping turn and two quick hops carry them halfway across the back of the room. Lying on her side, Erika lifts a crooked arm above her head, a tiny and fleeting shelter. At the other end of her body, her foot comes alive and lifts off the ground, momentarily meeting her hand behind her back. The shape dissolves, and a new impulse carries her forward over the fulcrum of her two bent knees. Across the room from each other, inhabiting parallel worlds, both dancers are blurring low. For an instant, however, they connect, and each sprout upwards from the floor in exactly the same way and timing. From that moment of synchronicity, they slip back into their own modes, Alexa conjuring a storm above their head, and Erika swirling sideways, her feet light beneath her. The pace, shape, and impetus of these moves is ever-changing and never stops. Why each movement occurs when it does, or what it might mean, feels mysterious and sacred. The dancers are each deeply tuned in to what they are doing, as if they too are unsure what might happen next. Their faces show an openness and attentiveness to each possibility as it blooms and wilts in their body. Alexa's straight arm flashes like a blade above their head, then disappears. Their body softens. On their knees, they press forward, pulled by the stomach. Their face looks to the heavens. Their hand caresses half the length of their arm. They twist to their feet, then look at their own closed fist wrapped tight in front of their belly. The fist raises, but their eyes stay fixed ahead, scooping long fingers up like tossing string over their shoulder. They swing onward into the next unfolding moment, the red of their open shirt catching the light, which has somehow slowly brightened to an icy blue. Above Alexa's head, The red fabric spirit floats, its color an exact and resonant match to Alexa's outfit. On the opposite end of the room, Erika, her delicate fingers pinched around invisible curling threads. She dances near the heavy black curtain, her blue clothes blending into the icy halogen light. Her arms unravel, loose and silky. Her chin drops to her chest and her hands swing open like doors. Eyes in the tops of their sockets, she teleports to the floor, her forehead suddenly grounded. A translucent blue hood, made of the same material as the blue fabric spirit, flops over her head and makes her silhouette glow. Alexa's bowed body turns off balance. Erika crawls. Alexa strides, shunting ahead. Erika unfolds, tipping her weight onto one foot. Alexa's hands heave forwards. Erika's hand slices down her body like throwing dice. Alexa shoots backwards along the floor like a squid. Erika stretches one arm back as her spine curves forward, moving softly in two directions at once. They're closer together now, caught in the same moment of calm. But then Erika's dance carries her away, a wobbling pause giving way to a burst of urgency that has her jumping, then sliding along the ground. Alexa skids past, landing on their back and floating for a moment, head as though resting on salt water. Erika, on her feet, treads heavily, taking one step like she's wearing a too large boot. She pivots slickly, and the image is gone. Again, their movements align. Across the room from each other, they are each low, leaning on the same forearm, torsos tilted at the same angle. It's an ambiguous coincidence that disappears before there's time to give it more thought. Erika spills onto her back and backstrokes an arm up over her head. Alexa pushes themselves sideways along the floor, a flat hand drawing a line along the side of their body. Carried by the continuous stream of blurry movement, Erika and Alexa find themselves near each other at the edge of the room. Their eyes still focused within the shifting worlds created by their own dances. They don't seem to acknowledge or even see each other. Rather, they are caught up in each other's gravity, held together by an elastic connection. They now dance in each other's orbit in the same direction, counterclockwise, around the perimeter of the room. Blurring together, they are a swarm of fleeting associations. Wrists flexed cutely at the hips remind me of a child learning to dance. Palms pressed together make me think of prayer. An index finger raised above the head looks like someone about to ask a question. And a glimpse of fingertips that curl towards the stomach seem to be beckoning something closer. Sudden surges of power are like earthquakes and tidal waves. Erika balances, one leg tucked up like a stork. Alexa's wide lunge deepens, like they're moving through mud. Erika's hands collect softly over her heart, then drift apart like leaves. Alexa's long arms swing above their head and freeze into a flex that fades as it falls to their side. They land on their knees and their hands travel down their thighs. Erika's hands swim once in front of her bent knees, It's overwhelming and hypnotic all at once to bear witness to this stream of non-stop, shape-shifting dance that hovers on the edge between form and formlessness. Alysha and Erika are in it, almost as though in trance. I admire their lithe and skillful dancing that is able to keep up with the unrelenting, complex, and overlapping flow of each new impulse. And at the same time, I wonder about where all these impulses might be coming from. It's a question I hold lightly as I notice little details. Erika's fingertips domed over the floor like a tent. Alysha's palm exquisitely steady, tracing a surface as smooth as marble. Large movements enter the stream as well. Alysha spins on their knee, then springs from the ground, launching their whole body forwards like throwing a medicine ball. They recover, hands beginning over their spleen, then peeling outward till they're pushing something away. They watch. Erika lets her arms fall limply at her sides before stepping forwards, her knees buckling beneath her. Traveling together, they've made it one lap all the way around the room. The elastic bond between them breaks. The distance between their bodies grows. The room gets brighter. Erika tumbles backwards, catching herself in a reclining position, almost comfortable, but her restless body shifts and rolls on. Alysha's arm stiffens, fists lead, till knuckles meet the floor and stick to it. From this anchor point, their eyes scan around the room, seeing things that I can't see, and their leg drifts backwards. Behind them, across the room, Erika is being pulled in many directions at once. Both her hands lift up in a gesture of offering. Alysha's arm shoots forward, like snatching a fly from midair. They wrap the fingers of both hands as though around a length of thick rope and haul it inwards. Under the blue fabric spirit, Erika hops and turns, a sharp knee enlivened. She rebounds from the ground, then flashes her hands out as if telling someone to stay or to wait. She ducks, palms brush past each other, then up over her head. She touches her ear. She touches her hip. Hands clasped together, Alysha swings them in a figure 8 across their stomach, powerful, like moving through water. Their whole body becomes liquid as they triple jump, bounding, tossing forwards towards the red fabric spirit, ending somehow on the floor, hand out. Fingers articulate themselves like a spine. They caress their head back to front, neck to forehead, scooping like the shape of a hood. Across the room, Erika turns, arms wide, chest lifted proudly. Her arms dissolve and she folds to the floor, but she's back on her feet. She's grabbing a rope and hauling it inwards. Moving on, her feet hop like hopscotch. Momentum is building. She waves her hand like erasing a memory. Her body becomes slack and casual. A figure 8 forms across her torso, arms rolling like they're on water. Her hand scoops over her head like a hood. Alysha flings themselves forward in a long trajectory beside Erika. The two now seem to be carving out tracks, blurring a line back and forth, towards and away from the two fabric spirits. Alysha with red, Erika with blue. Alysha barrels down the corridor with leaping, turning steps, like something I learned in ballet class, but looser. They land, their hands scoop over their head. Erika brushes her foot over the floor like kicking up dust. Her body bends in half. She careens forward and dances on. Their dancing in these two tracks is still blurry, but it's becoming more rhythmic, more bouncy, and I feel like I keep catching glimpses of similar things. Erika's hands spread open like smoothing a map out over a table. She grabs a rope and hauls it inwards, then leaps and turns away. Alexa's high leg points through the space like an arrow. Suddenly stepping beside each other, Alexa and Erika turn with a weighty hop to change direction at exactly the same time. From there, their trajectories fracture, Alexa skipping away, while Erika's figure-8 arms remind me of paddling a boat. Alexa spreads their hands apart like smoothing a tablecloth, in time with the rhythmic stepping of their feet. They haul in a rope, jump and turn, their loose red jacket flaring around them. Erika flings her body, a swirl of blue. A hand slices across her body like sowing seeds. Suddenly the dance settles into stepping, sometimes forwards, sometimes back, and sometimes punctuated by the weighty turning hop. Alexa and Erika are walking side by side in their tracks, letting their hips swing, lightly slapping their thighs. Their movement is perfectly coordinated as they barrel into a future together. Here comes a dance. They move together in unison. Shift, shift, reach, turn. They grab a rope and haul it in, spiral and come together, arms around each other's waist, celebratory. They lean away, launching towards opposite corners, where they catch themselves, a powerful arm thrust up to the ceiling. Running back together, they gesture to either side with platter hands. They jump up joyously as if exclaiming, yeah. They dip their hands low, then fling them over their shoulder. Following what they flung, they leap into a deep turning squat. Bursting back up with a kick of the leg, they settle momentarily with hands like smoothing a tablecloth. They clap twice, brush up dust like a horse, spin like a top into figure-8 arms like paddling a canoe. They scoop their hands up over their head like a hood, then open their arms wide as they lift their chests to the sky and hop into a final swirling turn. They stride backwards out of the dance with familiar steps. Erika flings off her coat and the choreography begins again. Shift, shift, reach, turn, grab the rope and haul it in. Come together with arms wrapped around each other's waists. These movements are sourced from Japanese and Finnish folk dances, as well as from Erika and Alexa's training in contemporary dance. The combination of moves and exact repetition of the sequence they've just done is joyful and athletic. Their movements are crisp yet free as they jump, hop, kick, turn, and crouch between the different dance traditions that pulse through their bodies. Alexa quickly slips off their red jacket, leaving it in a heap on the dance floor before the final few movements of the sequence. Swinging their arms, slapping their thighs, they stride out of the sequence but stay focused. Without breaking rhythm, Alexa quickly picks up their jacket and tosses it away. They launch into the sequence again. Their bodies show signs of fatigue, but they still plant their feet wide and thrust their arms to the ceiling, powerful and triumphant. They smile as they show off their platter hands, hips swinging along to the full-bodied movement. They are in this together as they lunge low, dipping their hands to the floor and then flinging their arms back up over their shoulder like tossing away a giant handful of salt. Side by side, they smooth the tablecloth with soothing, swinging gestures. Landing their tight turn facing opposite directions, they paddle, then crouch, scooping energy up over their head, down into their centers. They spring away in opposite directions, the final swirling turn carrying them to either ends of the room. They stride on beat towards each other, and with a new orientation in the room, Erika begins the sequence. After a few moves, she realizes Alexa isn't with her. She drops the dance, and they stride together again. They smile as they walk side by side, Alexa wiping the sweat from their brow. Communicating only with little glances, they sync up and launch into the sequence once more. Shift, shift, reach, turn. There's joy in this dance, and there's joy on their faces as they lean away from each other and launch with turning leaps into opposite corners of the room. They come back together, palms turned up like offering something on a platter. They jump up, a sharp knee lofting up underneath them. It's still the same choreography, but the repetition allows for the noticing of different things. They kick their legs high. They smooth the cloth. The effort is visible on Erika's face as she works to control her breathing. They brush their feet over the floor like kicking up dust. They spin like tops, hands clasped together above their heads, paddling in a canoe, ducking into their hoods, slap the thighs, fling the arms up, turn. They stride on, arms swinging, looking at each other. They gather strength. Shift, shift, reach, turn, grab, rope, pull, spin. Wrap, pose, wrap, lean, launch. Leap, spin, thrust the arm, run together. Platter, platter, step, step, yeah. Lofty knee, glide, glide, land in a lunge, dip and fling. High leg, horse leg, smooth hands, smooth hands, smooth hands, smooth hands, stomp, clap, clap, kick up dust, long leg jump, spin like a top, paddle, 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 cover the head, and they dissolve back to blurring. The light snaps to pink. Back at it, tumbling in the river of their dance. Erika reaches, gathering into her stomach. Alysha springs up from the floor, staggers, squats low, turns, whipping their arms around them. They slide to the floor and stay there, finally resting. Erika's still in it. Her dance unrelenting, spiraling around herself, tumbling, spinning to the floor, on all fours crawling forward, wrapping herself up in swirling lines. Meanwhile, Alysha moves to their corner of the room, grabs the unseen cord, and slowly lowers the red fabric spirit to the ground. Erika dances on as Alysha lets the form down gently, and the fabric spirit's edges glow with double vision, red and blue. Alysha lets go of the cord and lies down next to it. Erika, meanwhile, has not stopped dancing. Her exhausted body compelled onwards, spilling outwards, shifting across the floor. The last ricochets and impulses leaving her body as she lands on the ground, sweeping her palms over her chest, settling her elbows into the floor, and finally resting. Across the room, Alysha opens the fabric spirit, this sheer casing. Their arm slides inside of it. It puffs along the length of their left arm and lengthens it. And they look at their hand in its molten cocoon. Erika quietly arrives in the corner of the room. She lowers the blue fabric spirit gently towards the ground. Meanwhile, Alexa pulls their arm from the sleeve of the spirit, and as if by magic, a water wing, a small poof, stays affixed to their arm. They push the hair from their forehead, press to their feet, and launch into the dance. As if possessed, frenzied, all of the energy of what has come before moves through them as they careen around the room. The blue fabric spirit glows in the red-blue light, inching its way towards the earth. Jumping, hopping, turning, round and round, they fling themselves to the point of exhaustion, reaching for every little thing so that nothing is left behind. The blue fabric spirit lands on the ground. The light is changing. A dappled pattern on the floor like scattered salt. Erika takes the blue fabric spirit in her lap, slings one limb over her shoulder, and begins to reposition it over the ground. Alexa's dance has finished, and they crawl to meet the red fabric spirit, bringing their discarded jacket to be with it. Meeting under the dappled light, Alexa and Erika arrange the cloth with care. Together, the two friends work calmly, adjusting and readjusting the folds of the fabric spirit, forming it into a loose, wobbly, abstract body. Erika gets up and brings her jacket to join, flopping it over the floor, creating a bundle of different textured blue. To me, it looks like a ghost. Two delicate blue legs streaming from a mass of red-blue folds. I can almost imagine it breathing. Once satisfied, Erika and Alexa lie, one on either side, next to this ghostly body. Three entities together in stillness. The room gets darker, the dappled light more pronounced, uneven, perforated, like grains of salt under a microscope. The edges of each speckle tinged in hazy orange. They continue to lie in stillness, letting all the movement, all the dancing they have just done reverberate in their bodies and in the room. Where did it all come from? Where did it all go? What has changed? The blue-pink lights grow darker. Alysha and Erika and the fabric spirits remain still. As they rest, I rest too, settling into the sound and stillness. At the edge of the room, Sasha's face glows in the light of her computer screen. All three begin to sing. They stand up, coming softly to their feet, and walk backwards to the far end of the room. They grab the edge of the flooring between their fingertips and, moving swiftly as one, run backwards towards the fabric spirit, lying down and pulling the flooring over their bodies like a blanket. It settles, and they become invisible.
There you are, friends. It settles and they become invisible. So this is the first time you all have heard that with the description. Alysha, I'm assuming you've heard it before because you were doing the recording, right, with Andrea?
Oh yes,
You've heard it many times.
I never stop being impressed and excited by Andrea's capacity to conjure language. It just is a delight.
It's a difficult thing because the two of you are often doing different things.
Yeah.
So you're having to, even as a watcher of dance, right? Your attention's being split between what's happening between the two different movements on the stage. I remember being at your dress rehearsal, and Andrea was with me, and she had never witnessed the piece before, and you all were improvising it. So she was trying to live describe, which we all in this space know is one of the most difficult things you can attempt to do, because she had no idea what was coming next. So it's really hard to link the dots if you don't know what's coming next, right? Especially if you're trying to, as somebody who's watching it, trying to see, okay, how can I like put together a story here for the listener, right? If you don't know what's coming next. And you all as improvisers may not really have known what was coming next, so it can be really, really difficult. She did an admirable job for somebody who is like, literally, you're thrown into the deep end. Like, what else can you do, right? For you all as improvisers, though, what I'm curious about was my experience in the dress rehearsal. Was the dance different than this filmed piece? Because it was improvised. So every time you do it, was it slightly different? I guess is my question.
Yes, Erika here. So the whole performance is a score with different sections that have different
Okay.
intentions, different movement qualities. Some have like more structure than other sections.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like one section just before the ending, or like kind of at the halfway point, where Andrea was just like describing movements that were rhythmic, and that section we fall into unison, and it is pretty tightly choreographed and is something that we can execute. And the intention behind it was this like joyous, big virtuosic unison dance moment. But within the other sections, they are improvised, so the exact movements we hope are different each night, each day we were practicing it. And the quality of like emergence and really paying attention to what impulses are happening in the moment is something we're super interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like an interesting process for us to then try to like add additional tasks so that we didn't get too practiced at these like improvised sections. But generally the quality would be the same, but the exact movements we would try to like keep them always changing, always, like as Andrea beautifully described, like emerging and dissolving, pretty much one linked into the next.
Right. Yeah. So how many performances did you actually do? Because I'm curious about, because it's different every night. So as an audience member, if you were to go each night, it would be a slightly different experience, as opposed to like a choreographed piece that may still be slightly different only because the audience is different and the mood might be different and those kinds of things that we come to expect, when you go see a stage performance, because those things will never recreate themselves in time and space again, right?
Yeah.
But this is also different because the connection between the two of you is different, the moments are different, the responses are different in these parts of this dance. So how many different performances did you do, and how did the two of you grow and connect as you were connecting through these experiences? Maybe you didn't, I don't know, I assume that you did. But
yes, we did 3 performances at Western Front, and they did all feel super different. I think a big part of that was who was in the audience.
Yeah.
For sure, because what wasn't named, because in the video that Andrea described, there was no audience. But she describes 2 rows of empty wooden chairs on either side of this long, almost corridor-like floor, which we're dancing the length of. And the audience was seated on either side. So the audience was also looking at each other. We're really feeling the energy of the people who are watching us on either side. And we can really see them, or we're very close to them.
Yeah.
So feeling different people's responses changed it a lot. And I think for us, each night felt like we were allowing what needed to appear in our bodies to appear. Some nights it felt more like celebratory and joyous. Some nights it felt more full of grief, and I think the dance also holds all of those things within it. But we would be backstage in the little dressing room. We could hear the film happening, and we were holding hands and saying a little prayer, and then we would go and wait in the hallway. And then when we heard the applause for the film, we knew it was our time to kind of get ready to go out. But yeah, I think the people who are there do make a difference as to how it feels every night.
It was a nice intimate experience. Again, I was there for a dress rehearsal. One of the things I remember, this is such a silly thing to remember, but it was the afternoon and it was so bright in the space. I remember us trying to closed the shades
Mhm.
because the way we were sitting in that kind of an alley configuration, right? That the audience was facing each other on either side of the room, but we were also facing windows,
Mm.
as opposed to when you're sort of facing and the windows are to your flank. And so, we were there was me, I had my sunglasses on. I was trying to block out the like, and I just thought, oh my gosh, everybody sees me with my sunglasses on. How cliche is that? The black girl in the room with her sunglasses on. But it was such a lovely experience because the music is happening live. So talk about Sasha's music, because is Sasha also improvising? The music, like what level of that is improvised versus, I don't know, is choreographed the right word, or scored out, or like how does that integrate with the dance?
Yeah, similarly to what Erika described with the dance, where we have scores and intentions, and we know there are qualities we will touch on in every section. Sasha also has materials available to her that she's already made. And as the dance progresses, she's watching us and checking in with us to see what section of the score we're in. And she's responding to that. She's adding layers, she's taking things out. I hope that I feel like this is my understanding of what Sasha's doing, but she would be able to explain it much more concisely than I am. But she is in a practice of response, and a couple of nights she tried something that we hadn't heard before. But once we get to that rhythmic part, we are all following something that is pre-existing, and we're meeting in that. And then also some of the cues are set. For example, some of the lighting cues are set to sounds that Sasha makes. So she's watching us, she'll let a sound appear, and then the lighting will change in response to that. So we're all witnessing and kind of checking in with each other energetically a lot throughout the piece to be able to track where the other is in the score.
And at the end, when the three of you start to sing together, is a really nice moment where you all connect.
Yeah.
Was that something that you all generated together, or something that happened organically? Talk about that moment.
Erika speaking. Yeah, so as part of our process, we had done a lot of writing, and we have a writing and dancing practice. And our intention was actually to use a bunch of this writing and poetry in the film. And early iterations of the film included a lot more poetic text overlaid in the image, and in addition to like creative poetic subtitling. But when we ended up kind of pairing back with that, and it didn't feel like the film needed it in the same way anymore, or the images were poetic in nature enough, and the edit itself. So it was right around that time, the film, we were working and editing the film. We were working and creating the final version of the dance in tandem. And it kind of felt like we had been curious about integrating our voices more into the performance, but weren't quite sure where it would happen. And it just kind of started to, I think we both were interested in singing in some way. And then we were like, maybe we should write a song. And we have poetry and words available to us. So it was actually, we let Sasha really lead the process on the actual composition of the harmonies and how the song would take shape. But we were like, here's a huge Google document with a bunch of our like process notes and poetic responses to dancing, and we did like a writing workshop together with one of Alexa's mentors. Sasha kind of took it away, and then it kind of came in quite late in the process, actually, the song and the singing, and where it was placed in the order of the show also kind of came quite towards the end of the process.
It's really a nice it's like the bow on the top of the present. It really feels very nice. I want to remind our folks in the space that if they have questions of our guests, if they want to share comments, they want to talk about what resonated with them, if they have thoughts about the description that they want to share, this is your space also to share comments and ask questions. So use that raise your hand function, and we'll just keep on going until if and when we have thoughts or comments in the space. So I'll keep my 2% working peeper on those raise the hands, and then we'll just continue chatting if folks have stuff to say that they can. Oh, see, I just give it a second and people just jump on it. Tilo, looks like Tilo.
Hello.
Hello, Tilo.
The sound effects were kind of interesting. You know, I'm glad they warned us because it sounded like the film was breaking or not cut proper, but it was done on purpose. So that was nice to know. And I was wondering about the beginning where there's they're talking about a Japanese instrument. I think they call it koldo. Is that a Japanese instrument that only has one string?
Yeah, I can't remember. Erika speaking. I can't remember how many strings there are. I think there's somewhere between 8 and 10, actually.
Okay, that's not the instrument I'm thinking of because this one has 1 or 2. That's it. But anyways, in Japan, I have a couple of friends in Japan, and one of them, his father used to have a Japanese flute, and he doesn't play, and he's much older than I am, and he said he was going to give it to me, but his family said, they thought he didn't have anything. His mind was, he was just making things up. So don't expect, him to give me this instrument. And when he came back from Japan the next year, he had this instrument. His family didn't know he had it. It's a shakuhachi. And what's so special about this, other from it's about 110, 115 years old, it was made like inside, and then on the outside there's this one's long, you can break up to 2. Some of these sakahachis, they go in different sizes and they break up into 3. But the large one, they only break up into 2. And the ring that fits it together and inside is made by turtle shell.
Wow.
You can't do that anymore in Japan because it's illegal to harvest turtles. So it's a very beautiful instrument, and I've learned how to play it a little bit, but not the way like shakuhachi music. And I've heard somebody once use it, that song, The Pink Panther, the theme song. They did that on the shakuhachi, so I was kind of impressed with it.
Cool.
So, but yeah, Japan is quite an interesting place, and I've never been to Finland, but it sounds like a fun place too.
When was the last time you were in Japan, Tilo? I know your son was just there.
I think it was 10 years ago, maybe.
Oh, I didn't think it had been that long because your wife was just
Maybe,
there too.
maybe 10, maybe a little longer, 15 years. Yeah. My wife went there last year, and then during the summer, my son went there for 2 months, month and a half during the summer.
Thanks for sharing that story. We
Yeah.
actually, the same man who is with Erika, giving the instruction on how to play the koto, he also played a flute for us. It maybe based on your description isn't the same type of flute, but we also had some wonderful encounters with turtles in Japan. So it's just funny listening for the resonances in our travels to your story that you shared. So thanks.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tilo. And Tilo's wife, Yuko, is from Japan.
Oh, nice.
She's not in the space tonight. Maybe she's working. Okay, so this dance piece connected to the film piece. I'm curious about what's next for this work. What are you all doing with it now that sort of the live show, the live piece of it was finished in May? What's next? Do you know what's next?
Yeah,
Other than a well-deserved break?
Erika speaking. We have a few seeds that we've thrown out to the world, and then a few things that have, I guess, landed. We will be doing the whole thing, so the film and the dance performance, as part of what was formerly known as the Push Off Festival this January. I think they've renamed it
Hold on, let go.
Hold on, let it go. So I'm so glad that we'll get to play it here again to our home crowd. And then we will be taking it to Finland and performing in Turku in April. And then, as you mentioned, the film and the performance can kind of exist on their own a little bit. I feel like the dance will always have the film screen before it if it's possible, unless there's a presenter who really doesn't want that. And we probably won't.
Won't let that happen?
We won't let that happen. But the film as a standalone project, it is a possibility that it will get screened at some festivals next year, and we've sent it to some festivals and are kind of in the waiting game right now, waiting to hear about what will happen.
That's right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, now I see we have another hand, so we're gonna say hello to Megan. Megan, it's Megan. Want to unmute Megan and say hello?
There you go. Sorry about that.
There we go.
I actually have been to Japan actually a couple of years ago in 2016, I think. And wow, it was amazing. Went to Tokyo there. It's amazing there. Yes, I did hear a lot about. I didn't do the bond class, but I did a little bit origami. I went to the Inuyama Castle there, and did you go? Did you go to any of the castles there that were in Japan? Because I've never been to Nashima Island or any island. I've been to Tokyo and Nagoya, but did you go to any of the castles there that they went to and that in Japan?
No castles.
No castles. We did go to a big temple, a big Buddhist temple in Kyoto, and then we went to a volcano, which was really cool. And I forgot to
walk to we went on a volcano. We also walked spontaneously to the top of a mountain on an island near Hiroshima, which we didn't really know we were doing until we were several hours into it. And we looked around, we're carrying all this heavy gear, and we're like, are we climbing a mountain right now? And we made it all the way to the top. And
my goodness.
The rope car that usually you would take to come down was out of service, so then we had to get all the way back down. It was a very epic day.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
We're exhausted. Thanks, Megan, for sharing.
You're welcome.
Not a castle, but a volcano.
Yeah.
I'm sure you were exhausted. Erika, do you speak the language?
I speak and understand a little bit. I'm definitely not fluent. I also read a little bit as well. And since our filming time in March, I actually have been back to Japan once more since then, and it was a really lovely moment to connect with my family again. And I traveled with my dad, and we haven't traveled together as adults, so it was a beautiful part 2 to this kind of moment of going back. And yeah, but no, not fluent. Definitely like I can get by.
How about your dad? Is he fluent in the language?
He is, yeah. He was born in Japan and lived there till he was about 20, and then came to Canada, went back to Japan for a little bit, but soon immigrated to Canada after marrying my mom.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. It's a different experience when you are in a country and you have access to the language, than when you're trying to navigate without having access to the language. So I was curious about whether there were bigger barriers in terms of just being able to navigate the spaces, because without having access to the Finnish language, Alexa, that was a little bit more of a challenge. It sounds like you would just the dance spaces.
Most just in the dance space. Honestly, I feel like the teacher was a lot of Finnish folks, especially older folks, do speak English, but they're very shy about their English. So because it's not perfect, they don't want to speak it. So it was easy to get around because a lot of English speakers in Finland, but I do feel a disconnect because I don't speak the language. My mom was also born there, lived there until she was about 21, and then my dad, who is not Finnish, is also fluent, but somehow I didn't learn it.
Yeah, that's my father doesn't speak. His background's Italian. His parents came to Canada from Italy, and when they moved here, it was like, well, we're in Canada now. Let's get rid of the Italian. We're Canadians. And so therefore my father never learned it. Therefore I never learned it. And when we were in Italy, I thought, oh, that's tragic that I don't know the language. It really hurt me on a very visceral level that I didn't know. It's not such an easy thing to do, to pick up another language. Like, you really have to figure out how to immerse yourself in that and like really practice it. It's very difficult to do. But it pains me that I don't know it, but I'm not doing anything about it either, right? So but there is kind of a loss that you can potentially feel when it's when it's a missing piece in kind of your family history.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, so we got some film festival submissions, so we're keeping our fingers crossed for those, and we're heading back to Finland in April, which is really exciting. Do you think you'll take this to Japan?
We would love to. Yeah, it's been a bit of a slower process with kind of like navigating what the performing arts scene is in Japan. But yeah, if the opportunity is possible, I think we would love to do that. And it would feel really great if hopefully my family in Japan could see it. I know that some of them tuned into there was the live stream on the opening night of our performance, but yeah, for them to be able to see me do what I do would be really lovely as well.
Were there responses?
Also, sorry?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, also my family loves Alysha and Alexa more than me, so they would want to see them too. So they left a lasting impression. And when I went back to Japan, I came back with a suitcase full of presents, not for me, but for Alysha and Alexa.
Explain that to customs, right? And they're like, "What are you bringing this paper? It's not for me. It's for my chosen family." Okay. I love that. I just love it. I love it. Your families that saw the live stream, your families in Japan, your families in Finland, what was the response from those folks that saw the live stream version? Did they share any responses with you about the work?
Actually, none of my family caught the live stream. The timing was not quite right.
In terms of the time zone?
Yeah, and I sent the film to a few people, and hard to say, honestly. I think I'm going to try to get as many of them as I can to come to the performance in Finland, and I think that will be a better gauge of how they respond.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I didn't get a clear response from my family, but a bunch of the people and the teacher from the Bond dance class a whole bunch of them watched the live stream, and we got a bunch of very positive, sweet, encouraging messages from the people we took the class with.
That's really lovely. Well, I really hope that you get to take it to Japan. I'm not an expert on what the art scene looks like there either, so good luck with that navigation, and fingers crossed for the film submissions to the film festivals, because I think that could be really exciting for you all too.
Thank you.
This has been a fun night, friends. Thanks for bringing your artistry to the space. You know what, some of these projects that we do as artists, they never really end, right? They just have sort of like different iterations. They just change. And like, you also have, what did you say, this Google document full of poetry and perhaps lyrics and all sorts of cool things, which could totally manifest into a different project, but kind of a linked project. Like, you just never know where these things could go. So I'm just excited to see what comes next for you all. I'm really excited for you all.
Thanks so much, Amy.
Thanks, Amy.
Thanks for joining us in the Almost Live space. It's really nice to have you here.
Thank you all.
VocalEye, vocaleye.ca. Special thanks to our funders, the Canada Council for the Arts, the British Columbia Arts Council, the Province of British Columbia, and the City of Vancouver.